How's it going, fight fans? It's your boy Joey G from Wrestling Headlines. We are back and we are joined today by a very special guest. He is the master of the roundhouse kick. We're talking to Mr. Bobby Fish, the martial arts expert and former NXT and AEW star. Mr. Fish, good morning. How are you today, sir?
I'm good, sir. Thank you for the introduction. I don't know if I'm an expert in anything, to be honest, but I do appreciate the kind words.
Well, listen, I mean him from the bottom of my heart, so please don't send me a roundhouse kick to the head because I know it's devastating. A. B, I do believe you are an expert, and that's why I wanted to chat with you today about some of your expertise. And obviously, there's a lot of stuff going on in the wrestling world, but before we talk about that, I did want to highlight you because you are my guest today.
Thank
Um,
you.
Yes. Now, having finished your run with AEW now, when you first came into the company back in 2021, you did get a chance to highlight yourself as a singles wrestler in a way that, at least me personally, who followed your NXT run very closely, didn't get to see as much. I got to see you have marquee singles matchups against Darby Allin, CM Punk, Jeff Hardy, Bryan Danielson. You got to challenge for the TNT Championship in your first match. Do you feel like in your run in AEW, you got to highlight yourself a little bit more as a singles wrestler?
A little bit. NXT, we were the group, and the group was very successful. And you within any successful group, everybody has a role. Um, and I liken pro wrestling to being in a movie, and you are cast for a certain part. And once that part is outlined to you, what it is that they're asking for from you, it's your job to give that to them. Now, prior to NXT, Ring of Honor, I did quite a bit more singles stuff.
Hmm.
New Japan, I had a match with Shibata for the open weight title, and there was a little bit more of that that went on, and I love that stuff.
Hmm.
Um, but that's not to say I don't love tagging with Kyle and doing
Hmm.
the dragon thing, and then obviously to get an opportunity to be the undisputed era. Um, Three of my best friends in
Hmm.
this country. So none of that was produced. None of that had to be created. That was, pardon my French, but fucking real.
Hmm. Hmm.
It made it the coolest thing in the world. I got to go to work with three of my best friends every day that I did. And there was a joke backstage with production, whatever they would call us, one take or two take. Um, UE or whatever. And it really came down to the fact that like when we did promos and things, like we were just, four dudes riffing. It
Hmm.
was
Hmm.
talk, it was real. So it was easy and it was just fun.
Well, listen, it's a lot of fun to watch, and the chemistry and charisma that the four of you ooze together. I mean, it's so easy to understand why you guys became such a popular act and won the hearts over his fans, regardless of you were leaning towards a face or towards a heel dynamic. Like people loved watching Bobby Fish, they loved watching the Undisputed Era. So it's nice to hear that you guys have such a close relationship because it really, really does translate well and makes for some very fun pro wrestling and pro wrestling television. Um, my next question, speaking of Undisputed Era, is just to talk about, these last few months. Unfortunately, it seems like Cole went down with an injury. You got banged up. Kyle went down for an injury and now needs neck fusion surgery. I think this is probably a little kind of an obvious answer, but were there some big plans for Red Dragon and Cole that got halted because of all these injuries and bang-ups
Uh,
in AEW, I mean?
yeah, there were. I would like to state for the record that I was not banged up
Oh,
because
apologies.
I kept
Mm.
for being injury prone, etc. And I'll be honest, it does go up my ass sideways because I don't feel like that's me. Um, However, uh, the injury angle they did with me was gimmick.
Mm.
Uh, was with Darby, and it was what it was. But that was a work. Um, but the boys, yeah, their injuries were real. In the end, I guess what would be my end there, their injuries were real and they needed some time to get things together.
Mm.
Kyle have surgery, which I feel like's been a while coming. So I think it's good that he had this time off so that he could get sorted out. And, I think that's better for him in his future overall,
Mm.
as a wrestler, but just as a human being and as a father and all those things as well. But Kyle will be back good as new when the time is right. And
Great.
same thing for Cole. Same thing for Cole. Those guys you can't keep them down very long.
I can imagine, and no one, as no one should, because they are. It's a big hole when the you guys are not on our TV screen. Um, well, let's shift kind of to like the big topic of conversation that people have been talking about, and I promise I won't ask you the same exact questions. I feel like you've probably been getting in certain interviews, but obviously the following All Out, there was this media scrum and this backstage altercation. CM Punk, the Elite, and some very choice words. Already loved your interview that you did with Steve Fall from NBC, because I think you said some things that a lot of people were feeling about CM Punk and that were quite noticeable after your guys' matchup last October. My question to you is, you were in that locker room. Did it feel like anything, maybe not just in particular between the Elite and CM Punk, but did it feel like there was a tension or something that was kind of brewing, that was out of sorts, that was making that reported backstage atmosphere that used to be so fun? Did it seem like there were things that were starting towards going towards muddy waters or a little bit darker there?
That would be hard for me to comment on because I was not in the locker room the last, couple months that I was there.
Mm, okay.
One instance, they had booked the angle. We had an angle going forward, and then they changed gears and decided to book the injury angle with me and Darby.
Mm,
And,
mm,
uh, I let them know, like, hey, I'm off in 2 weeks,
mm,
4 weeks, because I'm getting married and and we're going on our honeymoon.
mm.
Um, you know,
Congratulations, by the way.
Sure. It was like they had lost track of that.
Mm,
So they booked this injury angle. So now I'm off TV for like a month. Um, when I did come back, um, then the injury happened with Kyle and Cole. I pitched ideas for myself individually. Those didn't come to fruition. So, I really wasn't in that locker room the last month and a half
mm, mm,
there. Prior to that, I will say no. I didn't feel like there was anything brewing. I think, track record would prove that anytime anyone is separated in the locker room, and now there were definitely certain people within the company who had their own locker
mm,
room. The people that you mentioned before involved in the altercation or whatever it was, they all had their own separate locker rooms.
mm,
Um, I don't know. It's just kind of my feeling that once you separate yourself from the boys, can you really be considered one of the boys?
mm, mm,
I th- and I might be in the minority, I might be in the majority. I don't know, but I know that like the separation always felt a little bit weird to me. Um, but it was what it was. As far as anything brewing between them, I never picked anything up. But Phil just has a way about him that
mm,
is, to me, unlikable.
mm, mm. Yeah, it has been unfortunate, as someone who lived in Chicago for a long time and got to attend All Out last year and got to see, the return of this guy that had been gone for so long. Seeing how things have panned out has left a dark cloud over a lot of wrestling fans, and I feel like a lot of support that was once there has been lost. And it's, I think, truly strong and important that great stars and great talents like yourself are able to shine a little bit of light on something that maybe a lot of us just didn't know was going on during all this time. um, Next question for you, Mr. Fish, is during your time in NXT, or you guys had a great run there with the Undisputed Era. You're multiple time tag champions, and you got to work heavily under Triple H. I know recently you said some great things about Triple H. You would go to war for the man. He is kind of the epitome of a leader. How are you feeling about what he has been doing with WWE's main roster since Vince retired, and kind of the changes that have made that seem very NXT like to their weekly programming of Raw and SmackDown?
To see him kind of step back into the position he's in was a surprise to me, not because he doesn't deserve it or shouldn't be there or any of those things, but just because so much had changed. And it seems like as quickly as it changed, uh, it's changed again for what seems to be the better. I can only speak from my experience working under the man. I grew up playing football, and I had certain coaches in my time playing ball that I wanted to play well for myself, but I wanted to play well for them too. So
Mm,
I was sideline and I would look to them and I would either get words of encouragement or even sometimes just a look, and the look was enough to be like, yeah.
mm,
um, I liken the relationship working underneath Hunter and Shawn Michaels to be in the same thing.
mm,
When we would come through the back, whether it was us as a group, individually, tag match with Kyle and I, or whatever the case, you come back through the curtain, and sometimes it was just a look from Hunter or a
mm,
look from, and you knew, like, yeah, we crushed it. And
mhm, mhm,
was awesome. It would make you, like I said, it made you want to perform for them as much as you wanted to perform for yourself.
mhm. Did you ever feel that sensation under Tony Khan when you were in AEW? Did you ever get that look? Did you ever feel that kind of that feeling that you went out there, you put it all out, laid it out in the ring, and killed it, and then kind of got that validation from him?
Um, Personally, no. I felt like I had those instances for myself coming
Mm,
through and thought to myself, like, I know I just had a good one. The one that I had with Danielson, I remember just feeling accomplished.
mhm,
The last one I had with Darby Allen, I mean, talk about a talented kid and a great opponent and a great, like, I don't know, I can't sing his praises enough. That was, the last time I can remember really feeling like, yeah, we did something cool.
mhm.
But getting that look or that nod from anybody in the back, um, no, nowhere near what I felt, the pride I felt, working under Hunter, no way.
Well, if he didn't give it to you, I'm going to give it to you. There's the look, because truly I had such a wonderful experience getting to watch you do this. And like I said, I was a newer Bobby Fish fan. I didn't get to see, having gotten exposed to New Japan late and these things late. Like, you were already in NXT during these times, so I didn't get to watch the Bobby Fish versus Shibata and the Bobby Fish singles run. So it was fun to see. It truly was, and it's going to make me want to go back in the archives and check all of those matches out. Um, just to stay on the topic, since we're still talking about Tony Khan, and again, I apologize that we have to keep talking about this, but it is a hot button issue, and people are quite interested to hear what Bobby Fish has to say. There's been a lot of criticism of Khan now because of his, dare I say, lack of reaction when Punk was going off at the media scrum. He seemed like he sat there and let his current world champion, who now had to vacate the title, sort of bash a lot of the guys that he started the company with. I mean, regardless if you were still there, is that like going to be something that hurts Tony in the long run amongst his talent, seeing that there was like a lack of sort of standing up for someone in a public setting?
Um, I mean, yeah, I would think so. I
Mm,
don't see how it can't. But at the same time, in Tony's defense,
mm.
I'm sure it caught him off guard too.
Sure, sure.
How many times in our lives are we not necessarily prepared for something unexpected, and then you do become that deer in the headlights for a little while, and you're just
Mhm,
like, you're trying to process. and you're trying to do it as quickly as you can,
Mm.
but times you don't, you just, you can't make up your mind, you're indecisive, and then you don't decide to do anything.
Mm.
It's actually pretty interesting. The match that I had with Punk, where things got wonky at the end of that match with the kick out on
Mm.
the ES, which isn't even his move.
Kent is move. Kent is move.
Um, you know, and that's me being given into my desire to be a little bit petty in that regard. And it's Kenta's move, and you didn't even have the decency to change the name. But um, the confusion at the end of our match was the fact that he did what's called the office or an Iggy. And this is some inside baseball stuff here, but he did that before the 3 count was over. And so now, having been in the business for a long time, I recognize what that is and have done it myself to somebody to say in our own way, whatever, good match, good
Hmm.
whatever. He did it before the 3 count was over. So that's also a way to alert your opponent that, hey, let's change something.
Mm. Hmm.
In that moment, I can liken it to what Tony Khan might have been feeling when he's going off on the EVPs, et cetera. Like, you don't know what to do. And in that moment, I know for myself, like I had to make a split-second decision. Couldn't weigh out, you know, this or that. I had to either kick out or not kick out and lose the moment forever. So I kicked out,
Hmm. Hmm.
just being whatever it was. Only reason I bring it up is just because we're talking about it, and I do want to extend some grace to Tony in that regard, just because I've been there, to be caught in that position. Like he definitely should have reacted differently. I think Hunter or Vince McMahon would have potentially folded Bill like a wet nap.
Hmm.
Um, in that moment, which is probably the right reaction. But in Tony's defense, like, that might just not be his like personality really. So here he is in this moment, and he's just hitched the cart of his company to the back of this guy, giving him not only a lot of money, but a lot of trust, et cetera, et cetera. And you're kind of shitting all over that right next to me.
Hmm. Hmm.
Just a sucky position for everyone.
I agree. I agree. And it's actually a really nice perspective to think about that. I think it's easy for people, especially online, to quickly criticize when really they're not the person in the position that has to be doing that train of thought in the moment. So I'm sure Tony will appreciate hearing that. And I appreciate you, Mr. Fish. And I only have one question left. And I want to just thank you again for talking to me, Joey G, with Wrestling Headlines. The Bobby Fish train is getting ready to pick back up. You got a match at Black Label Pro with Kevin Blackwood, which a lot of fans are very excited about. Black Label Pro is a great promotion. What can we expect from Bobby Fish over these next few months?
I'm gonna get back out there. I got some things lined up and some things lining up that are really quite interesting. Stay tuned. I got I started up a podcast. It's called the Undisputed Podcast with Bobby Fish. We're dropping that weekly. We got to figure out what day it's dropping on. But it will, consistently each week we're gonna drop that. And so yeah, expect to see more of me. Let's just say everywhere.
And you know what? We all look forward to that. I look forward to that, Mr. Fish. You are truly a treasure. I feel bad for the next opponent that has to stand across from you because they will know what real martial arts and real Muay Thai and real roundhouse kicks look like and feel. I truly appreciate you for your time. Thank you very much. Congratulations again to you and your lovely wife. And I truly wish you the best, sir.
Yes, sir, Mrs. Fish.